I got promoted. Then my life fell apart. You ever get exactly what you've worked your ass off for, and then instantly regret it? Smash that subscribe button if you've ever had a win turn into your worst nightmare. You're not going to believe what happened to me. 2 months ago, I landed the promotion I'd been chasing for 3 years. Project manager. Mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago. I thought it was my golden ticket. Better pay, more responsibility, actual authority. I called my mom the second I got the offer. She cried. My wife opened a bottle of champagne. Even my dad, who never shows emotion, told me he was proud. But less than a week into the job, something felt off. It started with a strange tension in the office. People I used to grab lunch with suddenly acted cold. Slack messages went unanswered. Meetings felt like interrogations. And worst of all, my predecessor, Mark, was still in the building. He wasn't supposed to be. The promotion was his to lose, and he did. HR had made it clear, he'd been demoted after blowing a client pitch and mishandling a budget. But somehow, Mark wasn't gone. They moved him to strategic partnerships, which apparently meant loitering in the hallway and making sarcastic comments under his breath every time I walked by. I tried to brush it off. But then I started noticing weird things. Client folders missing. My calendar double booked. Tasks marked complete that I hadn't touched. One day, I came into the office and my desk was covered in sticky notes, hundreds of them, each one with the word liar scrawled across it. That was the moment I knew, someone was trying to ruin me. And I had a gut feeling who it was. The quiet war begins. I decided to keep my guard up and observe before confronting anyone. Every day felt like walking through a minefield. The worst part? Nobody wanted to talk about it. My teammates acted like nothing was wrong, but the cold shoulders and sideways glances said otherwise. Mark became a shadow over my workday. He'd casually forget to send me critical emails, or worse, send them late with a smug little note attached. During meetings, he'd interrupt me or challenge my ideas in front of the team, even when I was right. The higher-ups seemed to ignore it, maybe because he'd been here longer or because he was part of the family. I felt like an outsider in what was supposed to be my new kingdom. One day, I found out that a crucial client presentation I'd been preparing for weeks had been leaked, before I even got a chance to present. Someone on the team had sent the deck to a rival company. My heart sank. I had no proof, but suspicion poisoned every conversation. I started documenting everything: emails, messages, meetings. I even set up my phone to record important calls. But paranoia crept in. Was I seeing conspiracies everywhere, or was this really a full-blown office coup? Then, unexpectedly, one person reached out to me. Janet, a junior account coordinator, who I always thought was too quiet to notice much, slipped a note on my desk. It simply said, "You're not alone. Meet me after hours in the conference room." That night, my mind raced with questions. Was she an ally? Or a spy? I had to find out. Janet's warning. I waited until the office cleared out. The cleaning staff had already started their rounds, and the silence made every creak of the floor feel 10 times louder. I stepped into the dimly lit conference room where Janet was already sitting, nervously fidgeting with her pen. She looked up when I entered, her eyes starting toward the hallway. "Lock the door," she whispered. That set off every alarm in my brain, but I did it anyway. Janet leaned in. "I know what's going on, and you're not crazy," she said. "They're setting you up." I didn't even have to ask who they were. She meant Mark, and apparently, more than just him. She told me that after Mark got demoted, he didn't take it quietly. Instead of leaving or accepting his new role, he started building what she called a whisper network, a small group of loyal employees who were quietly working to make me look incompetent. Sabotaging tasks, misfiling documents, whispering complaints to upper management. "They want you to snap," Janet said. "They want you to either quit or blow up and get fired." I just sat there, stunned. Everything I'd suspected was real. And worse, it was organized. But then she dropped something that hit even harder. "They're feeding stuff to HR too," she said. "Making it look like you're unstable. That you micromanage. That you've made inappropriate comments." My stomach twisted. That wasn't just backstabbing, that was character assassination. I asked her why she was telling me this. She shrugged. "Because it's wrong. And because Mark did the same thing to my friend 2 years ago. She had to leave. I don't want to see that happen to you." That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at my ceiling, wondering how far this rabbit hole went, and what I'd do about it. Fractures in the foundation. The next morning, I walked into the office with a smile on my face, a mask I was barely holding together. I nodded at Mark when I passed him in the hallway. He gave me that smug, confident look, the kind people wear when they think they're already holding your severance papers. But inside, I was boiling. I couldn't go to HR. Not yet. If Janet was right, and I had no reason to doubt her, it meant the story they were being fed was already turning me into the villain. HR wouldn't protect me, they'd build a case against me. So I shifted tactics. I started killing them with kindness. Over-communicating. Looping everyone into emails. Documenting every decision, every meeting, every task, carefully, politely, professionally. I wanted a paper trail so clean they could eat off it. And I waited for the cracks to show. They didn't have to wait long. One afternoon, I was pulled into an emergency meeting with our VP, Karen. She sat me down, folded her hands neatly, and said, "I've had a few concerns raised about your leadership style." There it was. I asked her to elaborate. She danced around it, using words like controlling, defensive, erratic. All carefully crafted HR buzzwords meant to plant seeds of doubt. I calmly pushed back, asking for specifics. When she hesitated, I offered my documentation, timelines, team feedback, even a recent client email praising my work. She didn't expect that. Her tone shifted. Just slightly. But it was enough. I knew I had bought myself a little time. After the meeting, I caught Janet by the elevator and asked, "Do you know who else is involved?" She hesitated, then nodded. "At least 3 people in your department. One of them you're not going to like." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a second, then turned the screen toward me. It was a group chat screenshot. And at the top of the list, the name that hit me like a punch to the chest. Claire. My closest friend at the company. My lunch buddy. The one person I thought I could trust. The betrayal I didn't see coming. Claire. Seeing her name at the top of that group chat felt like someone had kicked the floor out from under me. She wasn't just a co-worker, I trusted her with things I hadn't even told my wife. Late night Slack rants, venting about Mark, even doubts I'd had about whether I was really ready for this role. She'd always listened. Nodded. Reassured me. And the whole time, she was feeding them ammo. I stared at Janet's phone, my mouth dry. "Are you sure this is real?" I asked. Janet nodded. "She sent that message yesterday. Said you were losing grip and it was time to accelerate things." I couldn't speak. I just walked away. That day, Claire dropped by my desk like nothing had happened. She handed me a coffee, my usual order. "Thought you could use a pick-me-up," she said with that same easy smile I used to trust. I stared at the cup, then back at her. She didn't flinch. I almost said something right then and there. Almost confronted her. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I thanked her. Took the coffee. Smiled. Because now I had confirmation, and leverage. That night, I printed every message from that group chat Janet had forwarded to me. I organized them by date, highlighted names, and matched them to suspicious incidents I had documented. A paper trail of sabotage, manipulation, and targeted attacks. But the hardest part? Reading Claire's words. She'd called me a mess in a suit, said I was cracking under pressure, even joked that if they pushed a little harder, I'd walk myself out before they had to lift a finger. It wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated cruelty. And I knew then, this wasn't just about protecting my job anymore. It was about taking back control. The setup. By the next morning, the mask was gone. I wasn't playing defense anymore, I was planning a counterstrike. I kept my behavior calm, professional, almost robotic. I needed them to think I was exactly what they were saying behind my back, burned out, defeated, on the edge. Meanwhile, I was laying traps. I knew if I pushed just a little, they'd get overconfident. That was their pattern. They liked to feel clever, smarter, safer. So I gave them just enough rope. First, I accidentally left my laptop unlocked during a team lunch. I walked away and made sure Claire saw it. 10 minutes later, I checked the activity log. Just as I expected, someone had plugged in a USB drive. Strike 1. Next, I scheduled a fake client meeting for a project that didn't exist, complete with a fake Zoom link and a confidential deck in the shared drive. Only Janet and I knew the truth. Within 48 hours, the deck had been accessed and downloaded by someone with Mark's login credentials. Strike 2. The final piece came from a silent ally I didn't know I had. A senior developer named Luis, someone I barely talked to, pulled me aside in the break room and said, "I don't like politics, but what they're doing to you. It's messed up." Then he handed me a flash drive. Security logs. You didn't get them from me. When I plugged it in, my jaw dropped. There it was, timestamped, recorded, undeniable. Multiple logins under false accounts. Unauthorized downloads. Edits made to my project folders at times when I was logged out. It was everything I needed. Now I just had to package it. Not for HR. Not yet. For someone even higher. Because if I was going down, I was going to take the whole rotten system with me. Upstairs. It was time to go above HR. I booked a 15-minute slot with our company's COO, Amanda Pierce. She wasn't just a figurehead, she was sharp, decisive, and had a reputation for cutting through nonsense like a scalpel. When I stepped into her office, I was nervous, but focused. I didn't bring emotion. I brought facts. "Before you say anything," I told her, placing a folder on her desk, "I need you to look through this first. Then I'll answer every question you have." She gave me a look, skeptical but curious. Then she opened the folder. Inside, printouts of security logs from Luis, screenshots of the group chat, a timeline of incidents tied to specific people, and notes cross-referencing everything, color-coded, annotated, bulletproof. 10 minutes passed in silence. Amanda didn't speak until she finished reading. Then she leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and said, "How long has this been happening?" "Since I got promoted," I said. "At first I thought it was just resistance to change. But this is coordinated. And it's deliberate." Her expression darkened. "And HR has been briefed?" "Partially," I said. "But based on what I've seen, I don't trust they're impartial. Some of what's in those reports was supposedly already reviewed. And dismissed." She tapped her pen against the desk. "This is serious." "I know." Amanda stood up. "Give me 24 hours. Don't talk to anyone. Don't confront anyone. Not even casually. If what you've brought me is accurate, and I already think it is, this goes beyond petty workplace drama." As I left her office, my hands were still shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. Because for the first time in weeks, I wasn't on my heels. I was turning the tide. And they had no idea what was coming. The purge begins. The next morning felt eerie. The usual chaos was replaced with a heavy quiet, like the office knew something was about to break. Claire wasn't at her desk. Mark's office door was closed, blinds drawn. 2 people from HR were unusually active, walking between departments with stiff smiles and clipped greetings. By 10 a.m., an email went out. Mandatory staff meeting, 10:30 a.m., conference room B. No explanation. People murmured. Whispers passed through cubicles. I kept my face neutral and followed the crowd. When I walked in, Amanda was already standing at the front, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Beside her, a man I'd never seen before, tall, suit, clipboard. Corporate counsel. She wasted no time. "Over the past several weeks, serious internal issues have been brought to my attention," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "These issues involve breaches of trust, policy violations, and coordinated efforts to undermine leadership." You could hear a pin drop. Then Amanda began reading names. Claire. Mark. 2 others from my team. Each name was followed by one cold sentence: "Please step out. HR will escort you to gather your belongings." Claire didn't even look at me. Mark tried to protest, but security was already walking toward him. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. Clean. Precise. By the time Amanda was done, 5 desks were empty. 5 chairs pushed back. 5 careers, at least at this company, over. When the room cleared out, Amanda looked directly at me and gave a small nod. She didn't need to say anything. Everyone in the room knew what had just happened. And they knew why. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt free. But as I returned to my desk, I also knew something else. This wasn't the end. Because in the ashes of betrayal, something new was waiting to rise. Picking up the pieces. The office was different after that. Quieter. Cleaner. But not exactly calm. People started treating me with a strange mix of caution and respect, Like I'd survived something they couldn't fully understand. Some were supportive. A few offered apologies. Others avoided eye contact altogether, afraid of being pulled into the blast radius of what just happened. I didn't blame them. Trust in the workplace is a fragile thing. Once broken, it doesn't bounce back, it shatters. Janet and I spoke the next day. I thanked her again, sincerely. "You didn't have to get involved," I said. She just smiled. "Neither did you. Most people would have quit. You didn't." She was right. I had wanted to quit. Desperately. But something in me refused to let them win. I think part of me needed to prove, to myself more than anyone, that I was worth the title I earned. Amanda called me into her office later that week. She didn't mince words. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Not just for what happened, but for the fact that it was allowed to fester for as long as it did." I nodded but said nothing. What could I say? Then she added something unexpected. "I want you to take on a new role. Not just managing projects. I want you to help us rebuild the culture here. From the ground up." At first, I thought she was joking. She wasn't. It hit me like a wave. They didn't just want me to survive the storm, they wanted me to lead the cleanup. The promotion I thought would destroy me might actually become the reason I leave a lasting impact. Still, I wasn't sure if I could say yes. Because beneath everything, I was tired. Bone deep tired. And no matter how many people were fired, some damage can't be undone. Ghosts of the past. For weeks, I thought getting rid of Mark, Claire, and the others would bring peace. But even with them gone, the scars lingered. Every time someone laughed too loudly behind me, my mind flashed back to that group chat. Every time my calendar glitched or a file went missing, I questioned whether the sabotage had really stopped, or just gone underground. Paranoia became a habit I couldn't shake. And then came the email. An anonymous address. No subject line. Just one sentence. "You think this is over?" That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the screen, hands clenched in my lap. My wife asked me what was wrong. I told her it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was the return of a fear I thought I'd buried. I forwarded the email to Amanda and IT. The next morning, I got a reply, "We're looking into it." No update. No follow-up. Just silence. I began to question everyone again. Was there still someone left from Mark's circle? Had someone slipped through the cracks? Then something even worse happened. One of my projects, something I had rebuilt from scratch after the sabotage, was suddenly pulled from me without warning. Transferred to another department. No explanation. When I confronted the director, he looked uncomfortable. Upper management decided to restructure ownership. It's not personal. Not personal? I'd fought tooth and nail to protect that project from being destroyed. And now that it was working again, it was being taken away? It felt like history was repeating itself, just in a quieter, more professional way. The kind of way that leaves no fingerprints. That night, I stared at my ceiling again, just like I had weeks earlier. Only now, I wasn't afraid. I was angry. And this time, I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to find every last ghost still hiding in the walls, and drag them into the light. The hidden rot. I wasn't about to let history repeat itself. The next morning, I cleared my schedule and started digging, deeper than before. I went through archived project logs, budget reports, even HR memos from the past 2 years. What I found wasn't just unsettling. It was disgusting. The people who got fired? They weren't an isolated group. They were part of something bigger, an informal power circle that had been quietly steering company culture from the shadows. Mark may have been the face of it, but he wasn't the architect. There were fingerprints from other departments, people who weren't involved in my takedown directly, but who had enabled it for years. Overlooked harassment complaints. Promotions handed out to friends over merit. Entire teams managed through fear, not leadership. It wasn't just my story. It was systemic. And that project that was reassigned from me? Turns out, the director who took it had previously worked under Mark. Not just worked with him, mentored him. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces snapped together. This wasn't random. It was retaliation in a suit and tie. So I went back to Amanda, but this time, I didn't come with a folder. I came with a presentation. Clean. Detailed. Cross-departmental behavior patterns. Data. Dates. Everything tied together. When I finished, she just stared at me. Then she said, "You realize what you're presenting, right? If this is true, it changes everything. I nodded. I didn't just get caught in a bad team dynamic. I walked into a machine. One designed to protect itself. She sat in silence, then leaned forward. You want to help rebuild this place? Here's your shot. I'll give you the authority, but I'm warning you. This won't be easy. Some of the people you're pointing to are powerful. And if you fail, it'll be your head next. I didn't hesitate. I'm not afraid of powerful people anymore. Because once you survive being buried alive, you stop fearing the dirt. Cleaning house. I was officially appointed to lead a new initiative, Internal Operations Integrity, a fancy name for what was essentially a silent internal audit. I had access to documents, complaint logs, anonymous tips, and most importantly, Amanda's full backing. At first, the office was polite, curious. But within a week, the tension returned. Eyes followed me everywhere. Conversations stopped when I entered a room. People smiled too quickly, spoke too carefully. That's when I knew the message had spread. I wasn't just the guy who survived the takedown. I was now the one flipping over stones. The rot was deeper than I imagined. I found a trail of ghost vendors, external consultants who had billed for work never delivered. I found department heads rubber stamping each other's expense reports. And most disturbingly, I uncovered buried complaints, real ones, filed by employees who'd mysteriously transferred, demoted, or quietly pushed out. One of them had even filed a formal grievance against Claire, months before my promotion. It had been dismissed. With Amanda's approval, I started interviewing past employees. People who'd quit without explanation. Some were surprised to hear from me. Others cried. One woman, Dana, told me she loved the company, but left because there were too many people in high places who made you feel like being good at your job was a threat. It all sounded familiar. The deeper I went, the more isolated I felt. Even Janet kept her distance, not out of disloyalty, but self-preservation. I support you, she said. But I can't afford to be next on their list. I didn't blame her. Because the truth was, there was a list. And the more I uncovered, the closer I got to the people who'd built it. But I wasn't backing down. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice, for me, and for every person who came before me and never got the chance to fight back. The silent threat. Weeks turned into months. My investigation rattled cages, but the deeper I dug, the more the walls seemed to close in. Anonymous threats started arriving in my inbox, veiled warnings masked as friendly advice. One email read, "Don't poke the bear. Some things are better left buried." Another contained a photo of my car parked outside my apartment. No message. Just the picture. I reported these to Amanda and security, but the cold reality was clear. This wasn't just a workplace conflict anymore. It was personal. At work, I noticed subtle shifts. Meetings were scheduled without me. Key decisions made behind closed doors. A few colleagues who'd been warm now kept their distance or avoided me entirely. I became a pariah and a threat all at once. Claire's name came up again. Despite her firing, whispers circulated that she was lobbying to be rehired through back channels. It shook me to think the system might still protect her. One afternoon, Janet pulled me aside. "Be careful," she said quietly. "They're watching. And they're scared." Her warning wasn't just about me. It was about the entire fragile ecosystem that thrived in silence. But fear wasn't going to stop me. If anything, it made me more determined. Because sometimes, the only way to break a system is to become the noise it can't ignore. The turning point. Everything came to a head during a quarterly all-hands meeting. The room was packed, everyone from the CEO down to the newest intern. Amanda stood at the podium, her usual calm replaced with a rare firmness. She laid out the results of the investigation, clear, undeniable proof of the toxic culture, the cover-ups, the financial abuses, and the systemic betrayals. She named names. Not in a vindictive way, but with a determination to clean house for good. The fallout was immediate. Several high-ranking executives resigned or were placed on leave pending further review. New policies were announced, transparent reporting systems, anonymous whistleblower protections, and mandatory leadership training. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw hope flicker in the eyes of my colleagues. Some even came up to me afterward, thanking me quietly for standing up. But the price was clear. Amanda warned me that this was just the beginning. The company needed more than fixes on paper, it needed a culture shift, and that would take time, patience, and resilience. I knew I wasn't done yet. Because while the battle had turned, the war for this company's soul was far from over. New beginnings. Months have passed since the all-hands meeting, and the company feels different, still healing, but healing nonetheless. The toxic whispers have faded, replaced by cautious optimism. The new policies aren't just words on paper, they're becoming part of the daily rhythm. I'm no longer just a project manager. I'm part of a team rebuilding trust, one conversation at a time. Some relationships have been mended, others lost forever. But for the first time, I feel like I belong here, not because of a title, but because of what I stood for. I've learned the hard way that success isn't just about climbing the ladder, it's about holding your ground when the ladder shakes beneath you. It's about fighting for yourself, your values, and the people who believe in you. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: toxic environments can swallow you whole, but they don't have to define you. Sometimes, the darkest moments are the ones that show us how strong we really are. Thank you for listening. If you've ever faced a situation like mine or know someone who has, please subscribe and share this story. No one should have to fight alone. If you want me to create a call to action outro or something else, just let me know.